Let me go straight across to our panelists this evening, because there's a lot of different angles to talk about. Primarily, what are the next steps likely to be, both politically and legally? Senior Supreme Court Advocate Dushyant Dave joining us this evening first. Mr. Dave, ultimately, of course, what should be sacrosanct is what happens on the floor of the House. But is that the way you see this going? I mean, is that ideally what the governor should do at this time? Call for a floor test?
Well, I think that this is now becoming mockery of the Constitution. Floor test is a disastrous failure. And I don't think floor test really means anything. If you are going to allow this kind of hijacking of the MLAs to take place as it did in Karnataka and in Madhya Pradesh, where MLAs are flown into, by chartered planes, made to stay in 7-star hotels, not allowed to meet anybody, then you bring them and then they vote. What kind of a floor test it is? We all know what's happening. The fact that these MLAs have gone from Gujarat to Assam, which are both states controlled by the Bharatiya Janata Party, is telltale of the fact as to who is behind this whole scene. So first, secondly, the anti-defection law is miserably failed. We can't just allow these kind of defections to take place. These MLAs have won on the platform of Shiv Sena. They can't be just allowed merely because they have some number. You can always get that number by Sham Dam Bhed and done. That's what exactly is happening in this country. There is something much deeper to our constitution than mere letter, and that is constitutional morality. I personally feel that what is happening now, is something which is completely immoral constitutionally. It is unconstitutional. And I am now convinced that, when Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah had said a few years ago that they want Congress Mukt Bharat, I think they are now heading for opposition Mukt Bharat. And this cannot be allowed to take place. This is really sad for us. And I really would be, I'm surprised, because Prime Minister is a statesman. He's a very sagacious man. If he is allowing this kind of nonsense to go on in the country, it's really sad for democracy of India.
Mr. Dave, I understand where you're coming from, and that's certainly a very passionate moral argument that you're making. But, legally, none of this is illegal, right? None of this that is happening is illegal. It's immoral. It's
No.
And it's not the first time it's happened.
No. I don't agree with you. I don't think governor can shut his eyes to what is happening. The governor is bound to take note of every aspect of the issue and then only decide. And I think any governor with his, little salt in his blood would really ensure that this kind of, acceptance is unbelievable. He cannot accept any kind of a letter from these so-called rebel MLAs. He cannot go by, allowing anybody else.
So what is the best thing to do? Call for elections? Dissolve the assembly, in your view?
Absolutely. The only alternative in a situation like this is let these gentlemen who are so-called rebel MLAs, let them, there are two ways you do it. You either, dissolve the assembly, or you ask all these MLAs to resign, let them, win election again, and then seek a floor test. It is really shocking that what is happening, the whole aspect of this floor test was in a different context when politics had a different meaning, where politicians had some values. Today, everything is, gone for a song.
Well, so very strongly spoken there by you, Mr. Dave. We have Mr. PDT Acharya, former Secretary General of the Lok Sabha, also joining us this evening, and of course, well-known constitutional expert. Mr. Acharya, do you agree with Mr. Dave on this? Do you think that calling for fresh elections would actually be the right thing to do, although that may not necessarily be the thing the governor may do?
See, I look at it, from a legal and constitutional point of view. I don't get into the political side of it. So, looking at it from that angle, there are many actually scenarios here. One is, of course, as you say, that the government, the Council of Ministers, decide to recommend to the governor that the House should be dissolved and fresh election should be held. That is one possibility. But then there is a problem there. Because if the governor feels that the cabinet has lost its majority in which case, the governor is not bound to accept the advice of the Council of Ministers. Of course, technically the government is in majority because it has not been proved otherwise. But there are situations where the governor takes note of the developments that take place, and governor will be right in forming an opinion that the government has lost its majority. In that case, he can explore other possibility, means forming an alternative government and so on. That is, that is one scenario. Then certainly the governor can ask the chief minister to convene the house and do that floor test, as Mr. Dave has said. Floor test. Floor test, of course, is a very is a tried and trusted method. Then naturally the chief minister will have to convene the house and then hold a floor
test. Okay, so yes, certainly the governor has that discretion about whether to listen to the advice of the chief minister or not. Mr. Dave wants to come in, and then I'll go to the others. Yes.
Nidhi, before, I have to leave, so sure, I think sure. I will beg leave from my co-panelists. But I must say one thing. I respectfully agree with what Mr. Acharya says, that yes, constitutionally, if you look at the letter of law, what he says may be true. But you cannot divorce politics from constitution. And politics is at the lowest nadar in this country. And if that be so, then I think the normal, traditional approaches under the constitution should be given a go by. I think we'll have to think out of box. We will have to really ensure, because how else do we bring back morality? Every state this will happen. Now next is Chhattisgarh, tomorrow it will be Rajasthan.
But it's already happened in a string of states before this as well.
Exactly. It's not difficult to lure away for 30, 40 MLAs. The amount of figures which are being spoken of, which are being offered in Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh, we all know. We all know who's spending this money, who's chartering these planes, who is paying for these hotels. So I don't think it is right. I personally feel that time has come for us, seriously, both BJP and opposition really should start rethinking about the whole thing. We don't want a country where, this kind of situation takes place, where our MLAs and MPs become, pawns in the hands of somebody, and the democracy is virtually killed on the floor of the, assembly or parliament. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Dave, for joining us. Mr. Chandrasekhar Jha of the Shiv Sena is with us. Mr. Deshratan Nigam, also a senior lawyer of the Supreme Court and a supporter of the RSS, is also with us. Mr. Chandrasekhar Jha, is it looking increasingly difficult, though, for Uddhav Thackeray to save his government at this point? More and more MLAs are going to Guwahati. What are you still fighting for?
See, the message was very clear yesterday by Uddhav Sahab. It is completely... Is it audible?
It's breaking up a little bit. If you can try again, go ahead.
Yes. The thing is that the Uddhav Sahab yesterday given the complete statement. He has clearly said that he is not in lust of power and he is ready to resign, willing to resign. Now the thing is that there is an internal feud between the previous Shiv Sainiks and the current Shiv Sainiks. Why I say previous Shiv Sainiks? Because they are actually trying to negotiate on certain terms, and the term is that the Shiv Sena should join BJP. Now the thing is that since you know that from 2019, what happened in 2019, there was a fraction between BJP and Shiv Sena. Now, since there was a fraction and the difference of ideology is being quoted again and again. So difference of ideology when quoted, but since then, nobody came up and said that we should not join Mahavikas Aghadi. Now, after 2.5 years, suddenly, there is some kind of force being applied with them to demolish this government.
Right. In fact, let me just interrupt you for a moment. We've just got a video from Guwahati, from the hotel where all the rebel MLAs are staying. The video apparently shows them electing Eknath Shinde as their leader unanimously. Let's just let's see what happens.
याची प्रसिद्धी आपल्याला जेव्हा जेव्हा आवश्यकता भासेल तेव्हा तेव्हा सगळ्यांना.
All right, well, so you can see that the clapping there as well. Mr. Deshratan Nigam, if you wanted to come in there, Dushyant isn't there with us anymore, but just the larger commentary that he was making on the state of our politics. It's not just about, what's happened in Maharashtra now. It's been happening for years. Resort politics isn't anything new. When do we get up as citizens and say that this is not acceptable?
Nidhi, it's nice to be on your show after a very, very long time. And it's always a pleasure to be very analytical and forthright. If you recall, the pre-poll alliance is considered to be a very sacrosanct alliance in terms of constitution and also law laid down by the Supreme Court. When a pre-poll alliance is broken and a party moves away from that alliance, when the original mandate was for the Shiv Sena and the BJP to give governance to the state of Maharashtra, then does not happen. So from that day onward, the common plank of Hindutva on which the two parties contested the elections was something where the people lost faith. And after 2.5 years, when the voters and supporters of the people saw, of the Shiv Sena, saw that the party is moving away from Hindutva, which is all-encompassing, all-inclusive, then they got the feedback from the people, these MLAs, and these MLAs are very sensitive of public opinion. Then they got the feedback that the Shiv Sena is drifting away from the common plank of Hindutva. And actually they were compelled to, I'm not saying they willingly left, probably they were compelled to because of the kind of unnatural alliance that took place between the MVA constituents. So that is where the problem arose. And the discontent that you're seeing today is not sudden, but, brewing over a period of time. Now, once a party's 2/3 MLA, move out, then there is something for that party to worry about. That is why the anti-defection law was made very stringent.
And you're right that the way the Maharashtra government was formed last time was also not as per the mandate of the people. But is this also what politics should be reduced to? Is the question, the bigger question about resorts, the fact that these MLAs, went to a hotel in Gujarat first, they were whisked away by police at 2 in the morning to board a plane to Assam. Now they've got BJP leaders, they've got police guarding them in Assam. I mean, they're not in Afghanistan or somewhere, they're in Assam. Why do you need Assam police there in such big numbers? Is this at the end of the day, is a fresh mandate, honestly, you think, the fairest thing to do in Maharashtra at this point?
No. I don't think any of the parties want that also.
Of course they don't,
The fairest thing today is once 2/3 of the party move away from a particular, members move away from a particular party, it is for that party to have a soul searching why this is happening. Because people cannot be, foisted with elections time and again. So that kind of churning which has taken place inside Shiv Sena is for a Shiv Sena leadership to worry about and to think why it is happening. And for that reason, in 2003, anti-defection law was made more stringent. Instead of 1/3, the membership was 2/3 it was done. So you can't now make it that the entire party defects, then only the anti-defection law. So it has already been made quite stringent. So far as safety and security is concerned, depends on the situation, how far NCP is so powerful. We all know NCP is quite powerful. And let me tell you, the entire problem today is because NCP does not want to let go of the power. That is the biggest problem. And the
Mr. Jha wants to respond to you, Mr. Nigam. Go ahead, Mr. Jha.
First of all, I would like to say that he has said that we have lost Hindutva. At any instance or any point, can anybody prove what kind of Hindutva we have lost? Nobody. Just a blatant statement, a vague statement that we have lost our Hindutva. Nothing. No statement. The whole country has been put to riots. The whole country is put to arson, and say that Shiv Sena has lost Hindutva. Is this Hindutva we have practiced? And the second thing, let me clear it out. The thing of having the MLAs in rebel, it's all done, but why they are
Unfortunately, we've got a bit of a wobbly internet connection with you, Mr. Jha. I have to leave it there. In any case, the story, as we said, is moving pretty fast now. This video emerging also of these legislators apparently electing Mr. Shinde as their leader in Guwahati. So